Today, I want to talk to you about a lie. A lie we've been told since childhood, taught in school, repeated in motivational videos. They say, if you work hard, if you're patient, if you live correctly, the system will reward you. But then there's a question. If this were true, why do more people own less each year, while a small number of people own everything? Today, we will not talk about effort, laziness, or personal failure. Today, we will talk about how the game is designed, about why history keeps repeating itself in the same place, from the Roman Empire to the modern financial system, about why wealth always flows in the same direction. This video will not tell you how to get rich, but it will show you why so many people can never even get close. And once you see this system, the questions you ask yourself will never be the same again. Because the problem is not how hard you work. The problem is which game you're playing. Society constantly tells us that hard work, education, and discipline inevitably lead to success, that we will climb the ladder step by step. This global dream narrative is repeated everywhere, from schools to social media, instilling people with a powerful sense of hope. Yet reality contradicts this comforting story. Wealth is increasingly concentrated in the hands of fewer people, and the gap between the rich and the poor has deepened over decades. The reason the new generation struggles to own the same things previous generations did is not personal failure, lack of intelligence, or laziness. It is directly related to the structure and design of the system itself. When viewed through a historical lens, it becomes clear that these are not random patterns, but a structured inequality that cannot be ignored. The economic polarization observed in modern-day America is not a random market process or simply the result of innovation. It is the product of deliberately rewritten rules. In the 1980s, the wealthiest 1% controlled only about 7% of total wealth. Today, that figure exceeds 30%. To better understand this, we must look at history's repeating lessons, especially the internal decay of ancient Rome. The Roman Empire was initially built on independent farmers who worked their own land and served in the army. Over time, however, powerful families accumulated land and debt, turning free citizens first into tenants and eventually into servants. As a result, Rome did not fall solely because of external invasions, but because of social erosion caused by internal inequality. This historical pattern shows that excessive concentration of wealth inevitably leads to the concentration of power, while ordinary citizens lose their voice and security. Let's briefly look back at the Middle Ages. Life was very different then. If you owned land, you were powerful. Unfortunately, a person's fate was determined not by their labor, but by the family they were born into. The child of a peasant inherited lifelong hardship, while the child of a lord inherited vast estates. Time passed, the Industrial Revolution arrived, but although the name of the game changed, the rules remained the same. Land was replaced by machines and factories. While industrial giants like Rockefeller and Carnegie controlled everything, workers, even children, labored under brutal conditions. Then, at one point in history, a great sense of hope emerged. The belief that things were finally improving. Between 1945 and 1980, wages rose alongside productivity, and a strong middle class was formed. Many of us believed the system had finally become fair. But starting in the 1980s, the wind shifted again. Taxes for the wealthy were reduced, production was outsourced, and wealth quietly began accumulating once more in certain hands. Now we live in a completely different world. The financial era. Power is no longer rooted in land or factories. It now revolves around stocks, digital platforms, and assets. Especially after the dollar was detached from gold in the 1970s, governments effectively gained the ability to create unlimited money. But here's the most painful part. Those trillions of newly created dollars were not distributed equally. They flowed first into financial markets. As a result, housing and stock prices were artificially inflated, meaning asset owners grew richer, while life became increasingly difficult for ordinary people. If your family owned a home in 1980, you won. If they owned stocks, their portfolio exploded. If they owned multiple properties, their wealth multiplied. But if the only thing you owned was your labor, wages stagnated. Productivity increased. Workers created far more value than their parents ever did. But real wages remained flat. The lost value didn't disappear. It moved upward to shareholders, executives, and asset owners. Look at executive pay. In 1980, a typical CEO earned about 40 times more than the average worker. Today, it's over 300 times more. CEOs didn't become superhuman. The pay structure changed. Fixed salaries were replaced by stock options. Stock prices were inflated through monetary policy and financial engineering. Executives were paid in assets. Workers were paid in wages. In an asset-based system, assets always outperform wages. The credit system functions as a mechanism that intensifies social inequality. For the wealthy, debt is not merely an obligation. It is a strategic tool for expanding wealth. Banks offer them low-interest loans backed by collateral, which are used to buy real estate, expand businesses, and grow investment portfolios. Since asset values rise faster than interest costs, borrowing becomes a wealth-generating engine for this class. For the poor, debt is not an investment tool, but a means of survival. They face high-interest credit cards, auto loans, and student debt. Every dollar of interest they pay flows to financial institutions and indirectly into the pockets of the wealthy who own them. As a result, the financial system is designed so that one class is rewarded for borrowing, while another is punished for it. Wage earners fully pay income, social, and property taxes, while asset owners are subject to lower capital gains taxes. The ultra-wealthy, through borrowing against assets and legal mechanisms like trusts, reduce their tax burden to nearly zero and pass wealth from generation to generation. The system is designed so that workers cannot hide their income, while the wealthy benefit from invisible advantages. Crises accelerate the upward transfer of wealth. During the 2008 financial collapse, governments rescued banks with public funds while millions lost their homes, which were then acquired by financial giants. During the 2020 pandemic, despite the collapse of small businesses, central bank interventions caused billionaire wealth to surge. In both cases, the same script repeats. Losses are socialized, profits are privatized. Today's economic system operates on a simple rule. If you have capital, time is on your side. Money makes money. Assets grow even when you do nothing. But if all you have is labor, your income is limited to the hours you work. The moment you stop, it stops, and inflation silently erodes what you've saved. The gap between these two paths widens every year, showing why where you start matters so much. We see this most clearly in the housing market. There was a time when 3 years of income was enough to buy a home. Today, it takes 5 years, sometimes more. Homeowners gain over time. Newcomers are forced to pay for decades. Throughout history, the concentration of wealth and power has followed an unchanging pattern. In every era, wealth buys political power, and labor becomes dependent. To preserve this structure, society promotes merit-based narratives, but in reality, hard work alone is not enough to overcome inequality. For individuals, the way forward is not believing the system's slogans, but understanding the mathematical nature of assets, debt, and inflation, and being ready to turn crises into opportunities. Let's be honest. History shows us that no system is eternal, and progress has never been gifted. It has always been demanded. We are once again approaching a period where inequality has grown and systems will inevitably face a correction. Don't let this knowledge discourage you. Let it help you see reality clearly. Stop blaming yourself for a game that was unfairly designed. View personal finance not as empty motivation, but as a navigation skill, a way to find your path within this larger historical current. The story of work hard and you'll rise was never fully true. Real change begins with awareness. History doesn't only repeat patterns of oppression. It also remembers those who saw the pattern and chose to change it. The real question now is not how the system is designed, but what happens when enough people finally see the truth. Thank you for watching us. If this topic was interesting to you, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and activate notifications. In the upcoming videos on this channel, we will take a deeper look at history, economics, and the major processes shaping the world. Your opinions are important to us as well. Share your thoughts in the comments. Remember, those who understand the past build the future more correctly.